Hi all, thank you for joining our meetup today. This is Ani-san, the CEO of Enio, that is operating Axelnode platform. And yeah, today's theme is level up your Japanese. So I'm native Japanese speaker, and today, Shir will speak about how to learn Japanese, and we'll give you some tips and interesting resources to learn Japanese. Yeah, before starting the lecture, I'd like to introduce ourselves a little bit. And this is Ani-san, the CEO of Enio. That is a company focusing on innovation platform, and we are bringing investors and large corporates from Japan to work with Israeli startups. As you know, Israel has a great startup ecosystem, and we are bridging between Japan and Israel. And these are our services. So we provide a research lab service as like a bridging service between Israel and Japan. And also, we provide a cybersecurity service and gateway service for Israeli startups and Japanese companies. And then, our HR arm is Axelnode. We are working with these kind of leading companies from Japan and startups in Israel. And let me explain about Axelnode. Our vision is to provide the best recruitment platform for startups and growing companies and for talented people like you. And let me show you the intro video. Yeah, as you watch the video, we provide a mobile app to find a good opportunity. Mainly we are working with the Japanese corporations, and if you install this app and got invitation from us, you can find a good opportunity in Japan. Let me show you some examples. This is a company called Cyber Agent that is one of the biggest IT companies in Japan, and they have office in Shibuya. They opened a new tower called Abema Towers in Shibuya, center of Shibuya, and they have a nice office in the center of Tokyo, and developing some media apps and ad tech services, and also gaming, mobile games. So if you are the developer of this field, that will be good opportunity. And we are posting some open positions on our website, so I will share the URL later on in the chat. So please register from that page and you will find the opportunity. That's it about us. Any questions so far? You can write anything on the chat, and we can discuss that point, and feel free to text us. Okay, so let's move on to the next lecture. I will stop my screen. So please, Shir.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to our event here today. Very excited to be here with everybody. So the title of our event today is How to Level Up Your Japanese. So let me just share my screen, just 1 second. Thank you, everybody, for opening your cameras. It's really nice to see everybody. By the way, I know the situation in Israel right now is quite complicated. So if anybody has a siren in the middle, of course, without even saying, of course, you're welcome to leave. Don't feel embarrassed or anything. Please feel free to leave if there is an emergency on your side. Okay, so here's our event today, Level Up Your Japanese, expert advice and resources to reach your Japanese language goals. Speaking today is me, Shir David. I'll explain a little bit more about myself later on, and Ani-san will be joining us as support of expert Japanese speaker, native Japanese speaker, as a support team. Okay, so let's get started. This is the content of today's talk. I'm just going to say that today's talk is going to take a little bit longer than an hour. I think it might take around 1 hour and 10 minutes or 1 hour and 15 minutes around. So if you have any questions, please leave them to the end. Feel free to write them in the chat and we will answer them in the end, just letting you know the event might take a little bit longer than expected. So the event, let's talk about what I'm going to talk about. First, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about me, why I am an expert in learning Japanese, then we'll talk about the purpose of today's talk, what we're going to talk about, what we're not going to talk about. Then what you need to learn when you're studying Japanese. Next is resources for studying, all the resources I've prepared for you, some expert, and then in the end, I'll share a little bit of expert advice from my long years of learning Japanese, what I learned that you should do or shouldn't do when you're learning Japanese. So let's get started. About me, that is a picture of me wearing a kimono in Japan. I lived in Japan for about 3 years total. I studied international relations and Asian studies in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and upon graduation, I received a scholarship to go to Japan for 1 year. I did intensive Japanese studying from morning to night, Japanese studying for about 1 year in a university called the Doshisha University in Kyoto in Japan. And afterwards, I came back to Israel for a while, worked for a bit in Japan-related work, and came back to Japan for another 2 years for completing my MBA for 2 years. So I lived in Japan for a total of 3 years, of course, studied Japanese all that time. And I started learning Japanese in 2011 when I started my studying in the Hebrew University. Meaning, as a total, I've been learning Japanese for 10 years. That's right. They have been children that were born and are now 10 years old since I began studying Japanese for a very long time. So that's why during my time studying Japanese, I've accumulated all sorts of tricks, advice, all sorts of resources I think that are very useful for people who are studying Japanese. So I want to share those with you guys today. So what this talk is about and what it's not about. So this talk is about me sharing with you guys resources, tips, and advice about how to study Japanese. I will not teach you Japanese. If you thought we're going to start this by me teaching you how to introduce yourself, jiko shokai, all that stuff, that's not this meetup's purpose. This is about giving you advice about how to study, but I will not teach you Japanese in this event. If you thought this was a Japanese class, I won't say please leave, you're welcome to stay, but just you know that this is not the purpose of today's talk. Okay, so the first thing we need to cover is what I talk about when I talk about learning Japanese. Do you guys know the Haruki Murakami book, what I talk about when I talk about running? Okay, so that's where this title came from. What I talk about when I talk about learning Japanese. These are the topics that you need to study when you are learning Japanese, especially if you want to take the all-important, terrifying test called the JLPT, which we will talk about later on. So what I talk about when I talk about Japanese, first, reading. You have to learn how to read Japanese, understand what you're reading, and how to read in a pace that is quick enough to, like a reasonable pace of reading. Next is vocabulary. You have to learn all the Japanese words in order to use them in a conversation or when reading or when writing, etc., etc. For instance, what does this word mean? What does this word mean? This is separate from a topic called kanji, okay? Because kanji, of course, many Japanese words are written in kanji, but not all of them are considered, not all the words in Japanese are written in kanji. Therefore, vocabulary is a different topic. Kanji is, of course, the Japanese letters that you are all familiar with and I assume afraid of because there are so many kanji in Japanese, more than 10,000. So learning that could be very meticulous, and I will go through how to do that, give you some tips about how to do that later on. Another topic is grammar. You have to learn the Japanese grammar, you know, how to make sentences, how to use grammar correctly, and how not to make grammar mistakes, grammatical points, etc., etc. That's grammar. Next, you have listening. You have to be able to hear Japanese and understand what you're hearing. That is another topic that you have to concentrate when you're learning Japanese. And the last one is speaking. You have to understand how to speak Japanese, etc., etc. There is a, this kind of mark next to it. You will understand later on. Okay, so now let's talk about the JLPT, the dreaded JLPT. What is the JLPT? JLPT is the Japanese Language Proficiency Test. It is run by the Japanese Bureau of Education. It is done not only in Japan, but in several other countries, selected countries, and is run by organizations, local organizations to those countries. The JLPT is basically a test to check your ability, your proficiency, your ability to use the Japanese language. Okay, it has several levels. The lowest level is the N5. Above it, there is N4, N3, N2, and the dreaded, the terrible, the behemoth N1. Okay, so the N5 to N4 are considered to be the beginner level. N2 to N3 are like intermediate, and N2, the later stages of N2 and N1 are considered advanced. Okay, in the JLPT, you will be examined for reading, vocabulary, listening, kanji, and grammar. Speaking is not included in the JLPT. Okay, that's why I put this little mark here, because in the JLPT you don't have a speaking section. And in the JLPT, of course, you have to pass a certain amount of correct answers per part in order to succeed. So you have one part for kanji, one part for grammar, one part for vocabulary. They're kind of mixed up depending on the level, but you have to pass a certain score in order to pass the JLPT. And it's only pass and non-pass. You can't get, oh, I got a 56, I can show this to a future employee. No, employer, no. You have to pass or non-pass. And if you're looking to find a job in Japan or a Japanese related job, usually you will need the N2 or the N1, okay? So the reason why I am sharing this with you here is because throughout this presentation, when I'm going to show you resources, etc., I will be using these markings. First, I will be marking what kind of topic in the language learning it will be covering. For instance, if it's an app that helps you with your reading, then I will put the reading mark. If it's an app that helps you with vocabulary, the vocabulary app, etc., you get it. And I will also be putting the levels, okay? If it's for a beginner's level, if it's for intermediate, or if it's for advanced. I will be using these kanji, okay? The kanji for shokyu, chukyu, and jokyu, okay? So they will be marked accordingly. If you're not really familiar in kanji, it will be marked with the kanji, okay? So try to remember that this is for the beginner. Intermediate is easy to remember because it's like a square with the middle, so it's the middle level. And the upper level is the kanji for up, okay? You see the line is above, okay? So that's how you'll remember it's for advanced, okay? Great. So all the resources will be marked with both what level it's made for. If it's for people that just started learning, it's for intermediate learners or for advanced learners. And it will also, there will be a mark for how many, like what kind of topics it's covering. Okay, great. So, the next part I want to show you, throughout this this talk, I want to share with you guys questions from the JLPT, okay? I will be sharing these questions. If you know the answer, please write it in the chat, okay? Don't raise your hand or anything, just write the correct number in the chat. Write the number of the question, if it's JLPT N1, N2, N4, and 5, and write the correct number of the answer, okay? And the person that will get the most answers right will get a package full of snacks from Japan. So that's something to look forward to. So I'm going to show you the question now. I'm going to give you guys a little time to answer it. I'm going to start with the easiest questions from N5. Then next is going to be a question from N4, then N3, then N2, then N1. And they will be scattered throughout my talk today, okay? So the first question, the question from JLPT N5 is going to come up on the screen. You guys ready? Let's go. This is the question. Ani-san, could you please share with us? Can you please read out the question? Thank you. Am I the host? I have to give you permission to speak, right? Give me 1 second.
I should read this.
Oh, yes, please read the question and the answers.
Okay. 私はデパートに勤めています。
Okay, so this question is, what does it mean? What does watashi wa depato ni tsutomete imasu? Which one of these answers describe what is happening in this sentence the most accurately? Okay, so Ani-san, please read the answers.
Yeah, the number one is 私はデパートで買い物をしています。Number two, 私はデパートで散歩をしています。Number three, 私はデパートで仕事をしています。Number four, 私はデパートで住んでいます。
Okay, let's see. Everybody who got the right answer, Ani-san?
Yeah, number three is the correct answer.
That's right. Number three is the correct answer.
Yeah, I'm working at department store. Yeah, that's why number three is the correct answer.
Okay, so I see. Yeah, congratulations to, who was the first one to answer? Elia. So Elias Sasson got the first question for JLPT and 5. Very good. Okay. Everybody else, let's see who else. Oh, Huber got the right answer. I've got Yarin Aknin. Thank you for also writing that it's the N5 question. That was very helpful. Guys, please try and do that next time so we can keep track. Einat, also Guy. Very good, you guys. A lot of people got the level, the correct answer. Very good. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Let's start with some online resources, okay, guys? These are some online resources that I've learned about during my years studying Japanese. I'm going to start with the really easy basic ones, and then later on I will move on to some more serious stuff, okay? Let's start with the first one. This is the Bible of everybody that is learning Japanese. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. It's called Jisho, jisho.org. Jisho in Japanese means dictionary. So obviously this is a website that is that's right, a dictionary. So you use it, you just put the word that you're looking for in the window. You can write it in Japanese in hiragana. Best to write it in hiragana or kanji. You can also write it in English, like, you know, the romaji of the word, but it's preferable to write it in its original form. That way the jisho will be more helpful for you. Okay, this is the jisho, and this is for beginners to advanced, and you can use it to study your kanji and to study your vocabulary. Okay. Great. Next one is renshu.org. Okay, renshu.org. This one I want to show you guys. This one is a grammar. I use it as a grammar dictionary. Okay, it's for beginners to advanced. You use it for grammar. Let me show you guys what it kind of looks like. Here is Renshu. Okay, here is the grammar library. Okay, let's you go to the main page, and there you click learn, and then under learn you have grammar library. Okay, you guys, you have to register to use this website, okay, but it's for free. Okay, so let's say I don't know what the grammar point kara means. Okay, I'm pressing in kara, it's searching me for grammar, and it will give me all the answers, all the vocabulary points of what it means, what kara means. Okay, let's say I want to, let's say it's, I want to learn about what it's because. I press it, and here not only will it give me how to use it, the construction, it will also give me some example sentences, and it also where it's needed. Okay, kara is very basic, so you'll probably have it in the JLPT N5. Okay, so that is renshu.org. Okay, it's a very important if you're studying for grammar. If you come across some grammar point you don't understand, it's a really good resource. Next is WaniKani. Okay, WaniKani is a website that you use to learn Japanese. Okay, it's not a resource, you know, to search or to understand something that you're reading. It's actually a resource for learning. It's from beginners to advanced. You could use it for learning kanji and vocabulary. I will not go into the website now because we don't have that much time, but I heard that it's a really, really, really good website. I personally don't use it. I used it a little bit when I was just starting learning. It really builds up from the basics up. So they really start with like the radicals, you know, the parts of the kanji, and then they move up And there is this system that helps you memorize it and go through it every day and practice every day, this kind of program. So it's really, really good. I heard that it's great, and I really recommend it. I think for the earlier stages you can use it for free, but if you want to use it for the more advanced levels, I think you need to make like a subscription, and it costs some money. I'm not sure how much, but it's really, really recommended. Everybody says that it's a really good resource for studying kanji and vocabulary. Two more resources that I recommend are Tatoeba and Weblio. Both of them are good for a vocabulary. Let's say there is some word you're not sure how to use. Let's say you heard the word, let's say atarimae, obvious. You know that atarimae means obvious, but you're not sure how to use it in a sentence, okay? In that case, you can go into Weblio. Let's say I'm going into Weblio. Let's press atarimae, okay? I'm looking for atarimae. I'm searching it now. And here, this one is, there is also like a dictionary here, but if you press here, you can see example sentences. So you can see how atarimae is being used in a sentence. So that's really cool. So I really recommend that. Also, you can use that for words in English that you're not sure how to say in Japanese. You can search for words in English and it will show you how to use them in Japanese. So it's a really good online resource. Okay. Next, there is Imabi and JLPT Sensei. Both of these websites are for studying, just like Wanikani. Only these are not meant for only studying kanji or vocabulary. They're also good for learning grammar. Okay. Imabi is a website run by some private person who really, really likes Japanese and teaching Japanese. And you can go in there and you can find resources for beginners, for intermediate, for advanced, etc., etc. So it's a really good resource if you guys are looking for someplace to study Japanese from. That is the same for JLPT Sensei. JLPT Sensei is supposed to prepare you for the JLPT. So you have the different levels of JLPT, and 5 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 1. And you go into each and you find the kind of thing you want to practice, the kind of thing you want to learn that day. And you really have all the resources there. It's also from beginners to advanced, both of them. Okay, great. One more online resource that I really recommend for reading and for listening is this website for news in Japanese. I'm going to show it to you guys right here. This one. The thing is blocking my view, okay? Is it? Okay, let's go www3. Here we go. Okay. So this website is for reading news in Japanese. Okay, so let's say we want to read about this one. We press it, and here you have an article in simplified Japanese. It's an actual news article, but they took it and they made it in a little bit more simplified Japanese, so it'd be easier for people to learn. I'll have you know that this is not made for people who are studying Japanese. This is actually for school children who want to read the news in simpler Japanese. This is for actually Japanese children who want to read news in easier Japanese. And here, as you can see, it can give you the meaning of all the words. And you can also listen to the news. If you press here, you'll also be able to listen to the news. So it's a really good listening practice as well. I really, really recommend this website.
2020年度の
you guys can hear. I want to share some. Yeah. So
GDP
it's really nice and slow and yasashi. So I really recommend it for learning, for practicing your reading and your listening. Okay. I really recommend this website for that. I think that, okay, so the next one is a JLPT question, guys, this time from N4. So please be ready. Remember to write N4 in the beginning of your answer, and then write the correct number of the answer that you think is correct. Ani-san, are you ready for reading the question?
Yes.
Great, so let's go.
兄はバスで会社に通っています。あ、sorry, I read. Oh,
Oh no, let's pretend we didn't hear that. And let's see what is the reading of the kanji, okay? Guys, let's all pretend we didn't hear Ani-san. And please write the correct number of the answer, okay? Which is it? Is it mukatte, kayotte, watate, or modotte? Okay? Let's see, I'll put the chat in the other screen this time to not expose personal information. Okay, I see everybody got the, okay, all wrote it first, all heard Ani-san first. No, I'm sure she knew the answer anyway. So all has 1 point, very good. And 4, we have 1 point for or. Good job. Many others got the correct answer. Asaf and Guy, Yael, good job, guys. That's right.
By the way, Ani in Japanese means big brother.
And also Ani-san's name. Great. Okay, so let's continue. Thank you, guys. Stay alert because the questions can come out anytime. Maybe even. No, not really. Okay, so now I'm going to recommend some stuff for your desktop, okay? Using on your own desktop applications that can really help you learning Japanese or understanding Japanese. Okay, so the first one is a lifesaver, okay? If you don't have it on your computer, install it now. No, not now when the event ends, okay? It's called Rikai-kun, okay? Let's look at Rikai-kun in action, okay? This is a website in Japanese. Oh no, there are so many kanji I don't understand. I'm gonna have to go and copy the kanji and paste it into Jisho. Oh, that's gonna take me so much time. No, you don't have to do that anymore now that you have the Chrome extension called the Rikai-kun. This is Rikai-kun here. I'm going to press it to activate it. Once it's activated, you can just hover over kanji that you don't understand, and it will give you the reading and the meaning. Yes, this thing exists. It's the best thing that happened to Japanese learners since, I think, Jisho. Really, it's really, really good. I really recommend using it. It really helps when you don't understand some kanji, and instead of taking the time to copy and paste it, it really, really helps. So I really recommend Rikai-kun. So that is one desktop extension I really recommend. It's an extension for Chrome. I think maybe they probably have it for other browsers, but I'm not sure. You can check. It's good for kanji, for vocabulary, and sometimes it will also find the grammatical points for you. So I really recommend using Rikai-kun. The next one I want to tell you guys about is called Kanji Tomo. Kanji Tomo. It does the same thing as Rikai-kun, only it doesn't have to be on a website, okay? I'll show you. This is what Kanji Tomo looks like. And if you have Kanji Tomo open and you hover over some kanji that you don't know, it will give you the reading and the meaning of it down here in this window. Okay, so it's really useful if you're reading some PDF file or some file that you don't know some file that is not online. It's really good to use for reading the kanji. I really recommend it as well. It's a real lifesaver if you are working with Japanese documents. So that one was a Kanji Tomo. Okay, I think. No, next is mobile apps, not the question yet. You guys can relax for now. The next ones are some mobile apps that I really recommend from my years of studying. One of them is called Takoboto. Takoboto is an app that is similar to Jisho. It also has the Jisho function that you can use it as a dictionary, but it's not only that. You can also use it to memorize kanji and vocabulary. All you have to do is you have some functions there that you can add it to some notebook or add it to some deck, and you can use it also as a deck for learning kanji. Another app I really recommend is called Anki. It's also good for kanji and for vocabulary. What it does is it actually creates, memory cards. Do you know what a memory card is? Where you have the, let's say the kanji on one side, and then on the other side, you have the reading and the meaning. So this one does that only on your phone. So the first thing, it will show you just the kanji or the vocabulary word. And if you press it again, it will show you the answer. And you can say if you remembered or if you didn't remember, and the app will have you practice and review the kanji or the vocabulary in given intervals. So let's say you want to review the same kanji again in 2 weeks. The app will remember that and will give you that same kanji again in 2 weeks. So it's really, really useful for people who are now studying kanji or vocabulary. I really recommend Anki. I also put you see how these apps icons look like. I put them down here so you guys can find them easily on the App Store or the Play Store. 2 more apps I really recommend. These ones are more for reading. One of them is Todai Easy Japanese. That's how it's called, Todai Easy Japanese. This one is kind of like the news site that I showed you from the NHK. Only it's made for Japanese people who are studying Japanese, and it's on your phone. So let's say there is some word here that you don't know the meaning of. If you press it on your phone screen, then it will give you the reading and the meaning. And they also have the words marked according to what level of the JLPT that word is in. And you can put it into a deck for learning later or for memorizing later. So it's a really, really good app. Some of the news also have a listening part, so you can also use it to learn, to practice your listening. Generally speaking, I really recommend it. This one is for people from the intermediate up, okay? I don't recommend it for people who are just starting out. It can be kind of frustrating that you don't understand. So I recommend it for intermediate and up. They have the easy one, and if you look at the bottom bar, you can also switch to the harder news written in harder Japanese. Okay, so it's basically news written in in more simplified Japanese for Japanese learners. The other one is an app called Newspicks. Newspicks I only recommend for really advanced learners from the reason that it's just real Japanese news. It's not meant for learners. It's just regular news for regular Japanese, but you can really use it for learning. You can use it for practicing your reading. Basically, in the JLPT N1, you're expected to read almost as a native Japanese speaker. And for practicing that, I really recommend using this app called Newspicks. Okay, 2 more apps that I have here. These are basically for practicing your listening. You have Abema TV, which is just a TV app for Japanese people wanting to watch the news. You download it and you can listen, you can watch and listen to news in Japanese. Not all the app is available outside of Japan. Only the news, there's Abema News for people staying abroad. Only that function works outside of Japan, unless you're using a VPN. If you're using a VPN, if you are in Japan, then you will need to, you can have a lot of different channels like anime channel, other news channels, variety channels, etc., etc. Another app I recommend is YesFM. That's basically a radio, just a radio in Japanese. You can use it to listen to the radio in Japanese. I really recommend it. It's really good for practicing your listening. Okay, you guys ready for the JLPT N3 question? You guys ready? Okay, Ani-san, are you ready to read?
Okay.
Let's go. Great. So in this one, there is a missing word, and you have to put in the correct word. It's a vocabulary question from the N3 book. Okay, let's go.
Okay. わわわ寝たので気持ちがいい。No.1 すっかり。No.2 はっきり。No.3 ぴったり。No.4 ぐっすり。
Okay, I see there's already some answers in the chat, and the correct answer is 4. Okay, gussuri. It means to sleep soundly. And I see the person that got the answer first is Elia. Good job, Elia. The answer is indeed the 4th answer, and I see many other people got it correct. Zairaf, sorry, I can't, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. All got it right. Einat, Yarin, very good job, guys. Very well done. So that is the JLPT and 3 question. Very good, very well done for everybody that could answer it correctly. Good job. Okay, let's move on to Japanese books and where to find them. Okay, guys. Now I want to recommend you guys some books for studying Japanese. Really important to use books while you're studying. Many of these books are made for people who are studying for the JLPT. So I'm really happy to be able to share this with you guys. First is a series. I'm not sure if you guys can see me or you can only see my screen, but anyway, if you can see me, it's a series called Try. Okay, a series called Try. Try is basically, it starts from the grammar up. So what it does is it's kind of built like a regular kyokasho, like a regular study book for learning Japanese. It starts with this is the N1 one, by the way. It starts with some text, and then after the text, it gives you some grammatical points that appear in that text. They explain about the grammatical points. They explain about special vocabulary that appears in the text. And you can also listen. There is a listening comprehension. There is a attached CD if you have a CD player in your computer. And it's a really, really useful book, a really useful series. I recommend it. If you want to learn for the JLPT from just one book and you don't want a bunch of books, this is a good place to start. I'm not saying that if you do just this book, then you can pass the exam, probably not. But if you want to have just the one book and you don't want to mess around with many books, I recommend this one. And there is also, this is for advanced, there's the one for Keigo. If you guys really want to find a job in Japan, you have to learn how to use the Japanese called Keigo, which is basically highly, very, very, very elegant. It's a very high-level Japanese that you use with customers, a very polite language. And if you want to do that, that's where you're going for, I really recommend this book that helps you learn and practice your Keigo. Another series for learning for the JLPT is it's called Nihongo So Matome. It's a whole series for each level of the JLPT. They have a series of 5 books. Each of them covers a different topic in the JLPT. You have one for reading comprehension, one for listening, one for vocabulary, one for kanji, and one for grammar. Okay, I have all of them here with me, my dear friends. Okay, each one of them is marked by a different animal. And you can get these for N3 up to N1. Okay, you don't have them for the N4 and the N5. That's why they are marked here for intermediate up. Okay, guys? Basically, I really recommend these books if you're really serious about taking the JLPT and you really want to succeed. I really, really recommend the Somatome books. What happens is that they have it, the book is separated into different chapters. Each chapter is for a different week, okay? And for each week, you have 6 days of studying. So basically, this book has 8 weeks. The book expects you to do 2 pages every day for 8 weeks, okay? That's why each chapter is dedicated for a certain week, and each one of them has 5 days, 6 days, and on the last day, there is an exam that has the questions from the JLPT, mock tests with the questions from that topic of the JLPT, okay? If you guys are serious about taking the Japanese JLPT, the JLPT test, I really, really, really recommend using these books, okay? Because they're very comprehensive. You get to practice all of the topics. I really recommend it. Another thing I want to say is that all these books that I showed you are actually from one publisher called Ask Publishing, okay? I really, really recommend any book that you can find from Ask Publishing. I think it's probably good because they're really good publishers. They have a very huge variety of books, from dictionaries for Japanese, from JLPT study books, vocabulary books for people who want to work in Japan. The Keigo book is from there. If you are ever finding yourself in a bookstore and like, oh, I don't know which Japanese book to buy, definitely go for books from this Ask Publishing. I really recommend it. Okay, I can also show you their website. Ask Publishing. It's not even through here. Here we go. This is their website. As you can see, you can find, if you go to their website, you can go to the Nihongo section. This means for studying Japanese, our beloved Nihongo. And you can see all the books that they have. They have, for instance, they have this book for just the questions from the test. If you want to practice just the questions. As you can see, they have a lot of books. I really recommend them. And if you're getting the Somatome series, make sure that you get the ones that have this background, the white background, because they have one for people that speak Thai, and that one is, oh, I'm sorry, Vietnamese, and that one has a different background. So just make sure that you buy the correct one, okay? Okay, so that was about books. Let's go back to our presentation. So that was about books. Wait, no, there's one more. About books. Okay, let's say you guys are thinking, okay, but I don't want to just, study from study books. I also want to read. I want to read real Japanese books. In that case, you can always go for, you can also always read manga. I really recommend reading manga if you're just a beginner, especially the manga that is for children, not, for shonen, and then for, younger young adults. That one will usually have the reading furigana, the reading for the kanji. And that way you can read it, it has the pictures, it's nice to understand. But if you're really serious about studying Japanese and about passing the JLPT, don't read just manga. In manga, all the sentences are short, easy to understand usually, unless you're reading a manga in a really, really heavy topic, like Attack on Titan has a lot of hard text. But usually manga is not enough, okay? I really recommend you start trying to read real Japanese, and that means reading news in Japanese. And also, if you want to start reading just a regular book, you can start with some easy, light reading. In Hebrew, we call this Reshit Kriya. This means books that are for beginners, people who are beginning to read Japanese. These are made actually for Japanese children who are starting to read books, okay? So this entire series is called Jusai Made ni Yomitai Sekai Meisaku, right? So this is a series of books that are some famous books written in simplified Japanese. And I really recommend, if you want to start reading real Japanese books and you want to start off easy, I really recommend starting with these kind of books. Okay, it's good for people from the intermediate level. It's not good for people who are just beginners. It might be too hard, and I don't think it's really good for advanced levels. Those people should just read regular Japanese stuff, okay? And I will immediately, in a minute, I will explain to you where to get all these books. Don't worry. You must be looking at these books and saying, oh, I can, where am I going to get some Reshit Kriya books in Japanese? Well, fret not, because I have all the answers here. So the first source where you can get books in Japanese is, of course, Amazon. However, Amazon does not stock all the kinds of books. So if you're looking for, most of the popular manga you can find there, and if you're looking for famous Japanese study books, you can also find them on Amazon probably. But they're really, I really, really recommend using a website called CD Japan, okay? It's called CD Japan. Let me show you guys, it's right here, CD Japan. This is a website for, if you want to get stuff from Japan, this is a really good place to do it. You can go into books, and they just have tons of books here. I think any book that you can get in a Japanese bookstore, you can get probably on this website, okay? And it ships to Israel. Right now, the shipping cost is very expensive because, let's say you want to look into, I don't know, manga. The shipping cost is really expensive because they only ship through FedEx to Israel now because of the coronavirus. But in regular days, the shipment is not that expensive. Okay, so you can find a lot of different Japanese books here. The variety is basically endless. Any book you can find in Japan, you can probably find in this website. Okay, all my study books, all my study Japanese books are either I bought them in Japan or I bought them in this website. Any of the books that I have here are available on this website for sure. Okay, so I really recommend using this website for finding books in Japanese if you guys are interested. And the third option is a website called Book Depository. It's a British website. You can find many study books in Japanese there as well, but not the variety that you can find on CD Japan. So basically, just use CD Japan. Great. Okay, so I think the next one, yes. Okay, so now we have next slide is a question from the JLPT N2. Remember, guys, if you finish reading the question, you don't have to wait for us to finish reading out the question. If you know the answer, just write it in the chat. Just write the number before, the number of the test that you're answering for. Just write it before that and give the number of the answer. Okay, you guys ready? Let's go. Here is the JLPT N2 question. Ani-san, please read it out.
心を作った料理は何でも美味しいものだ。No.1、心を込めて。No.2、心を問わず。No.3、心をめぐって。No.4、心をめくりに。
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a little time to answer that. I'm going to give you guys some time to think. Okay, okay. I see people in the chat are already answering. And see, just a little bit more time. This is a JLPT N2 question, so I'll give you a little bit more time. Okay, great. I see many people got it correctly. That's right. The right question is 1, kokoro o komete. That means putting your heart into something, putting your love into something. The meaning of the sentence is, if you're cooking something and you put your heart into it, it's always delicious. No matter what you make, it will be delicious. Okay? So yeah, that's right, Yarin. It is number 1. The answer is number 1. Let's see. Again, the first one to answer was Elia. Good job. This is the third question that she or he got correctly. And very good job, guys. Awesome. Other people that got it correct is again Zairaf. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Einat or Yarin. Good job, guys. That's right. That is the correct answer. Okay, so let's move on to other things that I recommend doing if you're studying Japanese. Like I said, you can read manga, you can go to a Japanese school. I heard the Sigal Azrieli's Japanese school is really good here in Japan, here in Israel. Those are the things I recommend. I recommend adding Japanese friends to your Facebook so you can practice your reading on reading their posts or practice your writing when you're commenting on their posts. On your Instagram, add people that speak Japanese. Generally speaking, just try to immerse yourself in the language. And now is a special one, guys. This one is called Learning Japanese, Learning Language with Netflix, okay? This one, what it does is, it's called, Language Learning with Netflix, okay? This is a browser extension, just like the Rikai-kun that I showed you guys, that you can use it to, while you watch shows in Japanese, you can ask it to put the translation in Japanese on the bottom, the subtitles on the bottom, okay? And it will show you the meaning. You can hover over it to see the meaning of each word in the subtitles in Japanese. And of course, just because you have the subtitles in Japanese, that's already good learning. So I'm going to show you here how it kind of works. And the thing is that it's not going to show you the, let's see, oh, I didn't put it here. It's not going to show you the movie itself, because what I did was I just took a screen capture of what I was, of the screen itself, but it didn't capture the video. It didn't capture the actual show. It's actually a scene from My Hero Academia. It's an anime called My Hero Academia. And I activated the learning language with Netflix on my Netflix extension on my Netflix page. And you can see how it works. I will show you the video. Okay. Give me a second. So as you can see, while the video is playing, in this video, like I said, you won't be able to see the video itself because it didn't capture it for some reason. But while your show is running, it will show you the subtitles in Japanese. It will show you the reading of each of the words. And it will show at the same time, it will also show you the subtitle in English so you can understand what's going on. And as you will be able to see, it will show you each scene, each character, what they're saying. And you can also hover over the words and it will show you the meaning of the word. Okay, so here I put it over, I don't know, here, over kokumin. I put it over the word kokumin and it showed me the meaning of the word kokumin and it showed me some example sentences, etc., etc. Let me play it again.
私のオリジン。みんなで笑って暮らせる世の中にしたいです。そのためには象徴が必要です。象徴？平和の象徴。この国から犯罪が減らないのは国民によりどころがないから。
It's just going to show you how I'm playing around with it a little bit.
頼れる柱がないからです。ですから僕がその柱になります。
だからヒーローになりたいと。
So this is basically how it works, and you can learn a lot from it. This is basically a browser extension called a learning language with Netflix. Okay, if you Google a learning language with Netflix, you will find it, and you have to install it as a extension for your browser. And while you're playing videos on Netflix, only if you're playing the videos on Netflix on your browser, not on the separate app, then if it's activated, you will see all the options in the side. Now, one word of warning, most of the shows will not have the Japanese subtitles available in Israel, okay? Most of them will not have it available in Israel. So you have to use probably some VPN, or some of the words do have the Japanese subtitles available in Israel. You just have to play with it a little bit to find it, to find the one that works for you. Yes, it's only for a web browser. It doesn't work. I haven't seen that it works for the app on the phone. Okay, guys? Okay, so those were all the resources I wanted to tell you guys about today. Next, I'm going to tell you guys some expert tips, okay? Not just resources, but also I want to tell you about tips, things that I learned that are helpful for learning Japanese while I was learning Japanese. Okay, the first thing, something that is really, really, really important if you want to be good in Japanese is practicing your speaking skills, okay? If you can read and write and, you know, write nice grammar sentences, that's great. But if you cannot speak fluently, basically it's, you know, pointless, everything that you've done. So it's really, really important to practice your speaking. Where and how can you practice your speaking? Usually, I mean, of course, if you live in Japan, you can practice it wherever you go. But while we're in Israel, you should find something that is called a language exchange partner. Okay, language exchange partner. This is somebody that you meet with at least once a week. Usually you should do more than that. You meet with them once a week. Let's say that this is a Japanese person that wants to learn English. So for 1 hour, you guys, you know, speak in English, help your Japanese language buddy to learn English. And on the other hour, 1 more hour, you speak with them in Japanese. This is to practice your Japanese with this person. So basically, it's a person you practice speaking Japanese with. Okay, that is a language exchange partner. However, just talking in Japanese is really nice. That is pretty good practice. But if you want to make it really meaningful time, because if you only have 1 hour every week, you really, really have to make good use of this. Then you should use what I call the input-output method, okay? Input-output. This means first, you put some input, you learn something, and then only after you learn it, you can use it as output during your language exchange and use the words that you learned with your language exchange. So what does that mean? First, before the language exchange even starts, you sit down and think of a topic that you want to talk about. Let's say you want to talk about a tweet that some Japanese celebrity made, how they are saying that the situation of women during Corona is really terrible. So you want to talk about this tweet with your language exchange. So what do? First, you use the input. First, you go through the input phase. You go and you learn all the vocabulary that you need to know in order to express your thoughts and your feelings about this topic. Everything you want to say about this topic, first sit down and learn all the vocabulary that you need in order to speak fluently, or at least somewhat, about this topic. This is the input phase, okay? Then during the language exchange itself, then you will do the output. Then you will use what you learned, use the vocabulary that you memorized in order to speak with your language exchange about the topic that you've chosen, okay? And you repeat this again and again in each one of your language exchange meetings. This is a really good method to learn a new vocabulary and use it during your language exchange meetings in order to make sure that you can actually speak somewhat well about the topic that you want to talk about, okay? I really recommend doing language exchange, even if you're just starting out or if you are a very advanced Japanese speaker. I really recommend doing language exchange at least once a week for 1 hour. That's not enough, actually. Most people recommend at least 3 times a week for 50 minutes, but you know, we're busy people. So if you can find a language exchange partner that will sit with you 3 hours a week, that's great. So where can you find a language exchange partner? First, buy a plane ticket to Japan. You fly to Japan, you live there for 1 year, just kidding. You can use these websites. There is a website called the Lang Group, and there is a website called Tandem. Both of these websites are useful for finding a Japanese language exchange. I know Lang Groups is good. You can, I think it's for free. I never used Tandem, but I heard about it. So you guys should try using these websites in order to improve your Japanese and find a language exchange partner using the input-output method. Okay, next expert tip, how to study kanji vocabulary. Okay, kanji. Nobody likes kanji. Even Japanese people don't like kanji. Ani-san, do you like studying kanji?
Yes, I like.
Oh, really? Okay. Thank you for your support in my claim. Anyway, I heard a lot of maybe not Ani-san, because Ani-san is very dexterous and very smart. A lot of Japanese people that I talked to said that they don't like kanji and that they don't like studying kanji. And because they started using their phones, they started forgetting how to write many kanji. Anyway, kanji is annoying. Nobody likes kanji, but we have to accept Ani-san. But we still have to study kanji, okay, guys? You cannot know Japanese just with hiragana and katakana. You have to learn kanji. So how do you learn kanji? This is called, you have to learn by hand until your hand bleeds, okay? You use this kind of a paper. This is a kanji learning paper, just like the one you can see here, okay? Just sit down and write the kanji as many times as you can, at least one of these pages. This is a page made for writing kanji. Of course, you can get it on Amazon and all sorts of places, but of course you don't have to use this kind of paper. You can just use any paper. Try to write the kanji at least 100 times, okay? That way it will, the pain will make you remember, okay? So it's really, really important to write the kanji many, many times in order to remember it. That is one thing. The other thing is Anki cards. Remember that app that I told you guys about that is called the Anki app? So what it does basically is it creates these flashcards, the memory cards for you. You just type out the word. But I really recommend making Anki cards yourself with your hand. Again, the pain is good for remembering. So you write the kanji in one side and you write the meaning on the other side, and you make these kind of cards. These kind of Anki cards are not really, you can't really get them in Israel. You can make them yourselves. It's really easy. You can just use some cardboard paper, or you can also get them on Amazon, and probably you can get them on CD Japan. AliExpress, I saw that they're selling these, Alibaba, so you can get them in all sorts of places. And you just make yourself some flashcards to remember the kanji. It's really good for remembering the vocabulary as well. So you look at one side, do I remember how this is, what is the reading? Ah, right, this is Kyushu. It means sfiga, okay, like this, okay? So it's really, really useful. In Japan, I heard that they use this to learn English, and they use this to learn for tests. So it's a really, really good system for learning Japanese. You can use the app, of course, and of course, paying. Okay, so this is how you study kanji. I recommend this method from beginners to really advanced studying. It's really important to use this method for studying kanji. Okay, now let's talk about reading. When you read a book, I really recommend, instead of just sitting there and just reading, you know, sometimes when you read a book, let's say I'm reading this book now, there is a word I don't understand. Okay, they stop in the middle of their reading and they go to the jisho and they go to the dictionary and they look up the word and then they go back again. This is not fun. It's really important that when you're reading, it's really important that you actually enjoy the fact that you're reading. Otherwise, you'll give up really quickly. But you still want to learn, right? So what I recommend doing is, let's say I'm starting with chapter number 1 of this book, and I came across a word that I don't understand. I will find myself a notebook. I will write down the word that I didn't understand. I will not check it in the dictionary yet, okay? I will continue reading at least until the end of the chapter. And every time I come across a word I don't understand, I will write it down in my notebook, okay? Only after I finished reading the chapter, then I will go to my notebook and I will search every word that came up that I didn't understand. And I will write its meaning next to it. The reading, and if it's a kanji, then the reading as well, and the meaning, okay? Then after I reviewed my list, then I will read the same chapter again. I will read the same chapter again, okay? And this time, anytime I come across the word I didn't understand, I can look at my notebook and see the meaning. This is really good for learning because you're not only reading the word once, you're reading it at least twice, and it's really good for reviewing, okay? I generally speaking, I really, really recommend reading books for remembering Japanese and for remembering grammar, etc., etc. Okay, so this is the way of learning. You read, write down the words, you search the words, and then you read it again. But remember, try to stop as less time as possible while you're reading, okay? Don't interrupt your own reading too much. For that, you will need a book that you will get on City Japan and a notebook that you will get anywhere you want. And it's from beginners to advanced learners. I really recommend this method of reading, okay? Okay, next one, the hardest question. This is JLPT N1, guys. Get ready. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. This is the JLPT N1 question. In this one, you have to put in the correct word. This is also a vocabulary question. If you already know the answer, please write it in the chat. Okay, Ani-san, please read the question for us.
申し込み用紙は1階のカウンターにつなぎ合わせてありますのでご利用ください。カウンターに備え付けてありますのでご利用ください。カウンターに付け加えてありますのでご利用ください。カウンターに引き取ってありますのでご利用ください。
Okay, guys. We shall wait for everybody to write their answers. No, Yorin, that's not how it works. If you're in the JLPT, you'll write, oh, I'm guessing, and then you will not get your points. So please try put one, either one or two. This is a hard one, guys. This is the JLPT N1. Okay. This is my white whale, the JLPT N1 for me as well, because I'm just 10-2 now. Okay. Yarin tried and answered. Okay. I'll give you guys a little bit more time. Give it a nice long thought. Don't use one of the resources I showed you to search. Right? Just think about it yourselves. I believe in you guys. I'll give you guys a hint, okay? Think about that it has to be prepared in advance, okay? Because you have to, the moshikomi, these application forms, they have to be prepared in advance, right? Something has to be prepared. So think which one of these have something that has to do with prepared in it, okay? I'll let one more person write an answer and then I'll move on. Okay, I'll move on. Great. Okay, so the correct answer is 2. Okay, so nae tsukete. All right. That's right, though it is very difficult. Welcome to my world. Okay, so let's see who got to the correct answer first. Is Yarin. Well done. You see, choosing one of them. By the way, this is advice for the JLPT as well. If you're not sure about the answer, just guess. But guess just one of them. Don't mark the entire. Just guess one of them. Okay, this is N1. Yarin got it correctly. Well done, Yarin. And okay, who else got it correctly? Einat got it right. Yarin got it right. Just those two. Yeah, it is very, very. This was a very hard question, so don't feel bad. Anybody that couldn't get it, it's absolutely fine. All right. Now for the last piece of advice that I have for you guys. We're already 5 minutes past 7, but I'll give you one last piece. This is the most important thing you will hear from me today. Okay. Do you know this flag, Ani-san? What country does this flag belong to?
It is a Japanese one.
That's right. This is the flag, the rising sun flag. And this is the flag of Japan. In the middle of it is the red circle that represents the sun. I want you guys to be right in the middle of that scorching hot sun, okay? Right in the middle of Japanese. Every day, I want you to immerse yourself in the Japanese language, okay? Every day, try your best to listen to as much Japanese as you can, read as much Japanese as you can, try to speak as much, even if you're just, some thought that you have in your mind and you want to write it down, write it in Japanese, try to write it in Japanese. Just do your best. Approach this like a child, okay? Approach this in a way that says, I don't mind making mistakes. Even if I make a mistake, that's fine, okay? Just approach it as much as you can. Immerse yourself in this language as much as you can. In any way possible. Watch anime, read manga, read news in Japanese, listen to news in Japanese. I gave you all the resources you guys need in order to do that. Just immerse yourself in it as much as possible, okay? Let's say there is something in Wikipedia you want to read about some thing that you're wondering about. Which comic book did Venom first come up with in the DC Comics? Let's say you're trying to think about that. If you're going into the Venom Wikipedia page, try to read it in Japanese. Even if it's super hard, you will learn at least one word out of it, okay? So really try to immerse yourself in Japanese. Try to read as much Japanese as you can. Okay, guys? Great. So that was all from me to you guys today. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you everybody for participating and for answering the questions, the JLPT questions. I already have the winner here written down. It's Elia. Elia actually answered correctly 3 of the questions. Very well done, Elia. We will be contacting you later to get your details so we can send you a lovely package full of snacks from Japan. So now we can dedicate a few minutes for some questions. Does anybody have any questions for me or for Ani-san? Please write them in the chat. Were there any earlier questions during the meeting, Ani-san, that I should address?
I think all the questions are answered. Yeah, I will share the link. Yeah, you can join that, and we will share information about Japan, the life in Japan, or meetup updates, and interesting information for you.
Asaf, okay, let me try. In Asaf, I will unmute you, and can I unmute you? No, Ani-san, can you unmute Asaf so he can answer this question?
I unmute Asaf.
1 second, Asaf.
Hey,
here.
hello.
Hi, Asaf.
Hey, hello there. I posted a question earlier. It just went unanswered. It's okay, but I heard from a friend that for JLPT N2 and N1, people who seek to employ do look on the scores because the score is somewhat determined on how much do you have in skill to be successful in certain job. So is it true, or is it okay for a job that requires JLPT N2 to just pass the N2?
From what I know, what I heard from friends, as long as you pass, it's fine. Some, I assume maybe some employees, because you don't even get the slip, you usually just get the one that says that you pass. You have the slip, but you can just look at it just for you. But you also have this teuda that you can show, the certificate that you can show the employee, the employer. From what I know, maybe some employers also look at the score, but I've never heard of that. All my friends said that they only cared if they passed or not. That is from as far as I know. Okay. Yeah, Ani-san, do you have any experience of employers looking at the actual score of the test?
No, I don't think so. Just check the like N1 or N2. But yeah, that is very important to show you have that level. And like through the interviews, they will check the real level of your Japanese speaking or like hearing, listening. So it's more important.
Great. Okay. Does that answer your question, Asaf?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you
no problem, Asaf. Awesome. Okay, so how long does it take to study Japanese for a total beginner? Well, it depends. If you just want to pass the N5, I guess you can study for it. If you spend a lot of time, you can probably study for about 2 months and you'll be fine. But to get to the N1, that's many hours of intense studying. So it really depends on the level you want to get to. If you want to get to native level, that's years, basically, a few years. Okay, great. Is passing N3 useful for anything, or is it just N2 or N1? Well, in Japan itself, if you want to work in Japan, probably N3 is like on the verge of maybe. But in Israel, I think a few employers might take you even if you just have the N3. That's good enough for many employers in Israel. Maybe for some in Japan, it will look good. Also, if you're trying to get a visa to go work in Japan, having the JLPT in some level is also good. So I won't say it's completely pointless, but definitely if you can try and pass the N2 or the N1, those are much more useful. Oh, Elia, I see you passed the N1. That's really nice. Maybe you can give me some tips. Okay. Oh, here, Haisam, who is employed by a Japanese employer in Japan, they said that they don't care about the score. They just want to see the certificate. Yeah, I see already. Sorry. Okay, great. Any other questions from any other participants? Something that we've missed, something that you want to know, we'll be happy to answer. Okay, thank you guys very much. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, please guys feel free to join our Facebook group. We share news from Japan, recommendations for places in Japan, really cool things that are sold in Japan, like Japanese stuff. Really recommend joining our Facebook group. It's really nice and very active. Yes, we will send the recording of this meetup. We will send the recording later on. And then, we will be in touch with you for your fabulous prize. Great. So thank you, everybody, for coming in today. Thank you all for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you guys again for our next meetup, hopefully. See you guys. Thank you. We will send it here. Don't worry. I'll send the PPT so you guys can have the links there. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice evening.